Pattern Carpet Fridays, let's go. So here we go. Chris, show them this beautiful piece. This is Dreamweaver Select. Del Rey is the style. Don't have the color for you. But it's a pattern piece of carpet. We've got to put a seam together. So we've got to do a little bit of homework before we get to the job, just so we're ready for the unexpected, or maybe the unexpected. So the pattern states 12 feet wide, 20-inch long. How wide's your carpet? 12 feet, 144 inches. So if we've got a 12-foot pattern repeat and we've got 12-foot carpet, what's that mean? To me, as an installer, that means, buddy, I'm cutting in a foot. I'm gonna have to cut in a foot because there's no way I'm gonna have decent, if I cut my salvage edge off, I'm gonna have decent enough. I always call this the loosey-goosey. You've got about an inch there of just sloppy, where the primary and secondary backing go together. This one isn't too bad. But a lot of times, where these two backings meet, it's garbage. All right, so first thing, before I even load this carpet up, I'm gonna measure my width. And this is where we cross our fingers and we go, man, I hope 12.2. Hope a minimum of 12.2. Hope a minimum of 12.2. I'm 12.2 and a half. So that's telling me as long as I can get an inch off each end and not get into the loosey-goosey, I'm gonna be okay. Second thing I wanna do is I do wanna check my pattern, right? Like I wanna make sure it's an actual, if the manufacturer's saying it's a 12-inch wide pattern, 20-inch long, let's check it before we get out to the job site and we get all stumped and flustered. So I'm just gonna find a piece. This one's, I think, pretty decent. Looking from this way, it's a little bit hard, but it's a pretty decent pattern to find. So I'm gonna find that pattern. And it looks like my repeat's just right there. Right here, this is my width. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. That is one. I'm gonna go from that end to that end. I don't know, 12 and an eighth. 12 and an eighth. That looks good to me. So now I'm gonna measure my width on the pattern, make sure I've got 20 inches here. It's an easy thing to do. Let's go up 20 and mark it. And this is about the easiest way to do it, guys. Get some tape, mark your pattern out. So there's my pattern. Boom, 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 boom. We're checked, we're ready to go. This is our fill piece. Spoiler alert, I figured to cut this before I even sent the estimate out. I looked at my pattern on the sample. I figured to cut a foot off each piece. And the reason is because not too terribly long ago, I didn't figure that and my carpet didn't come in right. And I had a heck of a time putting that seam together. So stay tuned. We've got exciting pattern carpet installation action coming. Thank you. All right, guys, so we're ready to get our pattern piece of carpet laid into the room. And instead of me taking a tape measure and measuring all this stuff to try to square stuff up, I like to do a simple process of just, I like to call it cutting windows. And what it is I'm gonna run a row along the side of the carpet here. And I'm gonna cut out 3 areas. 2, 3, I guess it really don't matter. I'm gonna go 3 though. Cut out. Oh, I got a vent there. Let's go right. Yeah, just do it. What the heck? So now what I can do is when I go to pull this carpet over, guys, I'm going to pull it over. So this is up against my baseboard right there. That's up against my baseboard. I know that the homeowner comes walking through here. My pattern is squared up with this wall right here. Can you see? All right. Guys, can you see this? This is what I was talking about earlier, is the end of this carpet, where this edge is, where they've allowed the extra to cut that seam, that edge deviation is pretty bad. This is what makes it really frustrating for an installer. You see this right here where it just goes in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. That's, I'm just gonna use the word impossible to put together nicely. I mean, it's just, we might get it together, but it's just, nothing's gonna look good there. So I had figured when I had measured this job to go in another pattern, and the same thing on my other piece, when I start putting my fill together, is to go in other patterns. So I come in here, here's my next pattern. Here's my row. Here's my row in that. Look how nice. Does that show up, Chris?
Oh, yeah.
The difference between that line and that line. So you watching this, what would you rather put your seam to? Something like that or something like that? A little more continuation. So here's my fill piece. I came in a full pattern. I also, just because I don't like headaches, I like to mark the pattern and correspond it to the same pattern on the piece over here. And that is just because, like I said, guys, I don't want to have to fight. I want to be able to put end to end together and go. But I figured this job to do this, so I've got enough material to cover this. So I've been burnt before. Chris remembers the job. It was less than a year ago. We had power stretchers and all kinds of stuff. Fortunately, a cool glide too, but we had so much of this edge deviation going on. It was such a pain in the butt. So I said never again. So just making you guys aware.
All right.
So we've got our two pieces cut here for fill. Now we got to get our cross seam, right? So we got to do the same thing. So we're matching up. I like to go off of, Chris, if you can show them. Again, I like to mark my patterns, but I'm calling this pattern the fighter jet. So I'm gonna come over here. So I'm leaving the fighter jet on this piece. Guys, we gotta unfortunately take, Tom Cruise is gonna have to come off of this piece. So we're gonna run our row. And there's a lot of different tools. I'm not gonna get into it in this video on how to run a row across the piece of carpet, because you can't always do it. This Dreamweaver Select is really good about running rows across it, which I think, I believe, what I really like about that is it really makes putting your cross seams, your head seams, whatever you want to call them, when you put those together, I believe they just look better. So we're going to run this across. And my little crane comb just seems to always come through. And we're gonna just cut. I take my duct tape, I mark it. I just hate having to find stuff, especially when I get to the point where I want to start putting seams together. So I've got fighter jet marked there. I'm actually gonna mark this one, my line. We are gonna cut across blade side to the carpet I'm leaving. And now it's ready for sealer. But you can see here, didn't quite go all the way through. You always want to be careful pulling your knife towards your seam, especially if there's a loop in there. I don't want to pull those loops out. So we're going to get this sealed. I'm probably not going to show you the process of seaming it. Maybe I will. Boom, so here we go. So, of course I had to run like 8 inches more than I needed to on my cross seam, but kind of just wanted to do this. So this is why we use the thermoplastic seam sealer. And actually last week, or beginning of this week, excuse me, I spent a good chunk of time down in Nashville ripping open a bunch of young installers' seams. So let's rip mine open. And that is, believe me, that's what I like to see. That's the sealer just pulling apart it's actually, I'm pulling apart the backing on the carpet. Stretching that backing over and pulling through. Missed a little there, but that's the end of the seam. Let's see if we can get some of this torn up. So I think, all in all, good penetration, good into the backing, primary, secondary backing. Same thing there, you can see where the sealer, I was pulling, actually just pulling the seam apart. Looks good. Abracadabra, we are done. Check it out, ain't that pattern just beautiful? So hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. Here we go, what seam? Stay tuned for more. Let's get some wall footage here, see if we can get something. There, look at how nice, isn't that a cool looking pattern? So it's one of those, like the right light hits it, you're gonna see it real good, but you might think, hey, it's not a big deal to match my pattern, but it is. So again, thank you, till the next one.